And I want you to know one thing. It's been a pleasure. You just like to dance, don't you, Carl?
That's right.
You like to dance. That was famous. Hello, welcome to One on One. I'm your host, Greg Walker. Our guest on this edition, you know, I tell you a lot of times that I've had people on here that I've known 50, 60 years, went to school with. Well, our guest is one of those today. John Osborne joins us. Now, let me tell you, if you don't know John personally, growing up, he was Mr. Everything as we came through school. He was definitely voted most athletic. He was very, very intelligent. He's led an interesting life. I think you're going to enjoy getting to know this man much better on the next two editions of One on One. Settle back, relax, enjoy a fun, down-to-earth conversation with not only a good man, but a good friend, and I think an interesting story to tell. John Osborne joins us right after these words.
We're celebrating 45 years of serving you at Matthews Nissan, Clarksville's #1 import dealer.
We're saying thank you with $6,300 off a new Altima, $4,700 off a new Rogue.
New Versa, $10,655, $11,000 off a new Titan XD.
With 800 new and used in stock, you're sure to find the car you want at the price you want.
Auto credit challenged, we can help.
You're gonna love our prices, Matthews Nissan.
Life is good. Through the years, you've worked, played, and vowed to protect each other. Because you love her, you make sure you have made your final arrangements. Pre-planning protects your loved ones from the burden of making those decisions during a time of loss. At Neil Tarpley Parchman Funeral Home, services are professional, personal, dignified, and affordable.
Neil Tarpley Parchman, people who care, a name you can trust.
Welcome to our show today. Old friend, good man, interesting fellow. John, great to have you in the house.
It's great to be here, Greg. Sure
John,
good to see you again.
Good to see you. It really is. When you get our age, it's almost good to see anybody, isn't it?
Yes, it is, as a matter of fact.
That's what Dr. Aaron used to say all the time.
Yeah.
You remember Dr. Dave Aaron?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You know, John and I go so far back, we may reminisce a little with you today.
Yeah.
You have to forgive us. You know, John and I graduated together, and he was something else. He was as big back then as he is now, weren't you?
In a little different location, yeah.
They are.
Everything's dropped, yeah.
Everything's different.
Yeah.
Funny what age will do.
Boy, it is.
Boy, it is. But you know, hopefully the older we get, John, the wiser we get. And in most cases, I think that's true.
I agree.
With age comes wisdom.
Yes. Most cases.
Most cases.
Most cases.
Sometimes you look at who people elect and you say, wait a minute. No, I'm just kidding. Look at the movies they watch,
Yes.
the box office. I mean, good gosh, think of this junk they're watching.
I totally agree. It's one reason I watch a lot of old movies because the language isn't nearly as foul. And
They use GD like it's nothing. I mean, you know, I'd rather use them, any term,
yes,
any slang, any curse word, anything.
yes.
Don't use GD so much.
no.
It's like they think they have to use that to be a tough guy.
Yes. And they use the F word pretty regularly.
Yeah.
It just,
I'll take it over GD.
yes, anytime. You're
Anytime.
definitely right. You're definitely right.
Anytime. Now, John, you have an interesting background. Let's go over a little bit. Your parents, your father was military.
Yes.
So you grew up where?
Ooh, well,
Y'all moved around.
we moved around. My dad joined the Army in '39, he grew up in Pike County, Kentucky. My mother grew up in Mingo County, West Virginia, and they got married.
How did they meet, I wonder?
Actually, they were fairly close together, and they went to church, what they said, a cake dance.
A cake dance.
A
I
cake
remember
dance.
those.
And that's where they met. Evidently, they didn't know each other, but somehow they got together and they won the cake.
No kidding.
They won the cake.
Well,
it was kind of a
that
plan
was
there.
a sign.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And of course, Dad was in World War II, and when he got back from World War II, I guess they got kind of busy because my oldest brother, Quentin, was born in 45. The next brother, Gary, was born in 47. Then I was born in 48.
That's right.
So
They did get busy, didn't they?
they stayed busy. Yeah.
That's an Osborne.
Definitely.
No doubt about that.
But I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Didn't see it again till a couple years before my mom died. I drove her because she always wanted to go back where I was born to see the hospital. But then they went, I was 9 months old when they left Milwaukee. They went to Fort Knox and then to Fort Campbell. And that's the first I remember in Fort Campbell.
Fort Campbell.
I think I was about 3 or 4 years old when he started talking about going to Korea. So he went to Korea.
Right.
And when he went to Korea, we moved back to Mingo County, West Virginia. And that's where we stayed for a year or two. My dad was in Korea. Then when he came back, we went to Fort Hood, Texas. That's where I started first grade. Didn't finish first grade. We moved to Fort Campbell, and I finished first grade there. So we moved quite a bit. And then ended up, because he loved to hunt and fish, and he got assigned as a game warden at Fort Campbell, so we moved out to the Woodlawn area.
Right.
And so we stayed out there 2 years. As a matter of fact, I went to Woodlawn School, 2nd and 3rd grade. Then we went back out to Fort Campbell.
Well, your brother Quentin played basketball at Woodlawn.
Yes, he did.
And he was a good player.
He was a starting center with some of Woodlawn's best basketball teams.
Yeah, Slides. Don Smith was young.
Willard Ross.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
a tragic story there, Willard Ross.
It bothers me every time I drive out to that place and see the tent.
I understand.
It does bother because he was a good boy.
He was.
He was. And I keep saying boy, but he was a good man.
Good man.
He was a good man. And when we left Fort Campbell, Papa was signed to Germany. We went back to Pikeville, Kentucky. Then when he came back from Germany, we went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And so I went to, I think, no telling how many different schools for the first 6 grades.
No kidding.
And he decided to retire, and he retired in '60 with 21 years service. He was a master sergeant. And we decided to move back here. And started 7th grade at Greenwood Junior High.
That's when we met.
That's where we met. And some of the finest people there. It just...
Boy, you were loved. John was loved. I mean, he could have been a lot of things, but everybody liked John. You were smart. Mm-hmm. Weren't you voted most athletic your senior year?
Well, it was the 9th grade at Greenwood, the Mr. Cunningham Award. It was the best all around.
Yeah.
No, I believe Steve Prim was most athletic senior year.
I believe he was.
Yes, and he deserved it.
Oh,
I mean, he deserved
what
it.
an athlete.
And I still go by and see his tombstone because it's real close to my mom and dad's over at Greenwood Cemetery. Yeah, he was a fine fellow.
Tragic death.
Yes.
Tragic.
It really was. Really was.
What
but if you remember, you were elected student body president in the 9th grade, weren't you?
I was.
Against me.
You, Susan Stanfield, and Charlie Burris.
You were definitely the most popular kid in the 9th grade at junior high school.
I don't know about that. These are the hands of Greg Walker. Didn't hurt him.
Was it Rudy Ojada?
Yeah, Rudy Ojada had that going.
Yeah.
Sure was. He's running for governor.
Yeah.
He didn't win.
No.
He didn't win.
But we stayed, you know, bought a chicken farm out in Woodlawn. And
you told me you had 8,000 chickens.
normally, Gary said one year we had 10,000, but most of the time we had 8,000 chickens. And they were about all hens laying eggs. And well, we worked. And
I guarantee you worked.
and we always had something to eat.
I guarantee you did.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things, every year when we clean the houses out, we put the chicken manure in big piles. And in springtime, people would want to come
Get your manure.
get the manure for the fertilizer.
Yeah.
And that's how my two older brothers, Quentin and Gary and me, made our spending money. We loaded those trucks for $2 a pickup load. Could you imagine doing that for $2 now?
Ooh,
Well,
goodness.
but
You worked for $1 a day, didn't you?
that was somewhere between second and third grade, working in tobacco field. I think they have a spray for tobacco now, but back then when you had suckers, you crawled along and pulled them off. There was no spray to get rid of the sucker. So $1 a day and all the watermelons we could eat, because we didn't have any water, so they had watermelon patches on either end of the field. So when we make it to an end, the owner would cut a watermelon.
Well, those watermelons sweeter back then.
They best I can remember,
They
because they were
seemed
good.
it, didn't they?
They were good.
They were.
They were good, and they were wet too.
They were.
Yeah.
You know.
So it, you know, that was one thing I was talking earlier. I learned so much from my mom and dad, and it really bothers me that I didn't thank my dad for what he taught, you know, all of us. Because he passed away in '78 at age 59, and I wasn't smart enough to just sit him down and say, I really thank you for what you taught me.
I didn't my dad and mom either, and I regret that.
Yes, and for all of you people watching, if your mom and dad are alive now, don't miss the chance to thank them.
Amen.
Because you're not always aware of what they teach you until it's too late. So,
Amen.
so
Well said.
if you haven't, please do it now, and that way you won't feel bad about it later on. So,
Now let's come up to Clarksville High days.
okay.
Clarksville High School, Clarksville's pride, forward into battle stride.
Yeah.
Some good times, weren't they, John?
Yes, they were, and I'm going to let you sing, because if I sing,
I'm
people
not-
turn the TV off.
Me also. But
and
I
I
just let
drive.
them get to,
I'm sorry.
remember.
Even now, I drive down Greenwood Avenue every now and then, and look at, I think it's Penn Warren Apartments now.
It is.
And boy, the memories come back. I see the windows where Mr. Majors used to
Sure,
You know,
stand
it's
on the ledge.
out his physics class, and
Yeah.
and where we used to sit outside, and goodness knows.
And I remember, see, you're talking about all the good stuff, and I was one of the guys that went to the back between the gym and the shop area, and we smoked.
Yeah,
And you thought nothing about it. You
Yeah.
smoked with coaches,
Yeah.
teachers.
yeah,
You were all out there smoking.
okay. Yeah,
Thought, hey,
yeah.
there was a lot of smoking back then.
Yes, there
wasn't
was.
there?
Yeah,
A lot.
What was it, a quarter a pack back then?
Oh,
Something like
something
that.
50 cents,
Yeah,
quarter a pack. I remember that Andy Griffith smoked, and Humphrey Bogart and John Wayne, and they were all,
yes.
I loved all. I thought, well, man,
Yeah,
that's cool.
yep. That was the thing to do.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah,
that was cool.
yeah,
And I wanted to be cool.
yeah. Well,
It's a shame, isn't it?
well, times have changed.
They have.
That they definitely have. Like I said, smoked for a couple of days in the 5th grade and got caught. And so
You were lucky.
yes, I was. Yes,
You
I
were
was.
lucky. John Osborne's our guest. One-on-one, show 1. Segment 2 coming up right after this.
your heart is full of grief, the last thing on your mind are the details. At Neil Tarpley Parchman Funeral Home, we specialize in handling all the planning for the celebration of life your loved ones deserve. Neil Tarpley Parchman offers services for all faiths and veterans. In your hour of need, we care.
Neil Tarpley Parchman, people who care, a name you can trust.
Welcome back. John Osborne is our guest. John, goodness, he's been so many things over the years. It's just an interesting story. We were talking about back in high school days, however, and John in high school, we were talking about Steve Prim, great athlete, but in football, you were the man. And you were always coming up for whatever reason. You were always bigger than all of us. Mm-hmm. You were a big guy, weren't you? I mean, in those days.
In those days.
What'd you weigh, 195?
That was what I was my senior year, 195, yes.
Yeah. Well, I weighed 160 when I graduated,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I remember, I mean, you know, you beat some folks to death. You got a scholarship coming out of high school, didn't you?
Tennessee
Tech.
Tennessee Tech, yeah. And
Who was the coach there then, John?
Tennessee Tech, Wilburn Tucker.
Yeah, Wilbur Tucker.
He was a good man. He had some good coaches. And they fired him. I think he'd been there a whole lot since the 50s. And they fired him at the end of, my second year. Brought a new one in.
Right.
But by then, my knees, I'd busted up. I had 2 surgeries in '68, so that ended that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How did you hurt your knee?
Well, started getting banged up, in high school, but in my first year at Tech, a guy hit the front and loosened it up a little bit, and we kept taping it up. But then in my second year, I had a cracked back block, and it just tore. It's called the medial collateral ligament. It's on the inside and keeps from bending. And
they can't do today, then what they do today.
Oh, no. I was told I also tore the ACL, the anterior cruciate ligament, but they said we can't do anything for that. But basically, you just turn it, even after 2 surgeries. Second surgery, they put a big surgical staple trying to hold the ligaments together. But still, you just twist it, go in and out, and it was done.
Now, you were talking about getting banged up in high school. That is running fullbacks where you got it banged up, wasn't it?
Mostly.
Now, you had an interesting situation in high school. You played for Charlie Quarles, and in your senior year, Johnny Miller.
Yes. Well, Coach Miller was at Greenwood Junior High. When I first got here in the 7th grade, because I was fairly fat. I mean,
you weren't fat.
In 7th grade I was, and so I was on the 8th grade. Coach Ewing Burchett let me come out with the rest of the 8th graders, Gary, my brother.
I remember.
And then the 8th grade and 9th grade, I played on the 9th grade team for Coach Miller.
Yeah.
And so my senior
year,
year,
you were the only one out of our class to do that.
I think Pat Winningham may have been.
Really?
Yeah. Because he was good. He could catch a ball.
Well, he was. He's a big, tall end.
He's tall boy. And then our senior year.
6'5", 6'6", right in there.
And then
maybe 6'4".
He could hit a lick. And then our senior year, Coach Miller came up and took over head coaching position. And what was real good about Coach Miller, he was very good organizer. Plus, he had some of the best assistant coaches.
Yes, he did.
And of course, Dan Burden was there, and he was a heck of a math teacher too.
He's still, just retired.
Just retired. And Ed Bunio came over. He had just finished at Austin Peay, and he was inducted into the Austin Peay Hall of Fame a couple years ago.
I'm on that committee. I'm well aware.
Yes. And Rupert Baker and
Ed Sneed.
So he had some of the best assistant coaches.
Yeah.
And that was such a good team to play for. Coach Quarles, the thing about Coach Quarles, he knew football. He knew it. He would have been a real good head coach at Austin Peay. because we did so many different things, you know, for us younger kids, it was almost a little bit confusing. But he was so smart, and he was a good man. He was a good man.
He liked to see blood and guts too now.
Yes, and I think it was either my sophomore or junior year, I had my 2 front teeth knocked out. And he said, give me an aspirin. I didn't miss a play. But the nerves were exposed, and that's the first time I'd ever heard of root canals.
Oh.
So I think it was the next day, I went to Dr. Morton here in town, and he said, you need to go see a doctor in Nashville, and he did the root canals. And still I got silver bars running. When we do x-rays, you can see 2 big silver bars.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can't get through
Oh, I let it ring between my knees and teeth and everything. Yeah, the bells ring.
Make it ring, man.
Yeah.
Make it ring.
So it, but that was, you know, if I hadn't been wearing a mouth guard, I would have lost the whole row.
And what is one of your better memories from high school?
You know, I want to tell you, I have so many good memories from high school. If I tell you one, there's a whole lot of close seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, there were some fantastic teachers there. Matter of fact, teachers at Clarksville High got me through my first year at Tech, because we were blocking dummies at Tech when you're a freshman.
I had 2 teachers at Clarksville High that gave me confidence I didn't know I had.
I think we're talking about one and the same person, Miss Nancy English.
Correct.
She let me know that I could write. And believe me, that's what got me through graduate school. The fact, because you know, you have to write a dissertation.
Yeah.
And it got me through my master's too. Another teacher there that I had so many good experiences with, and he passed away just a few months ago, was Mr. Hardin Harris. He taught the vocational agriculture class, which I took my senior year.
What a fine gentleman.
Oh, he was. And I did not realize how much work he put into it until I started teaching, because we covered so much in that class. That welding, soldering, animals, you know, feeds and feeding, measuring ground, measuring tobacco fields. He was just so amazing. And you know, when I look back on him and I look back at the other teachers, Miss English, Coach Burden, and
Robert Woodland, debate, speech, theater. You remember the pluses and all? Like if you got a plus, you could do better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He gave me an A+3.
Wow.
Which is can do better.
Huh.
When you got the numeral 3, that's you can do better.
Yeah.
I said, gosh, he's got confidence in me, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It gave me confidence.
You know, he ended up teaching speech at Tennessee Tech.
I know he did.
I took his class my senior year.
And speaking of senior years, we're getting ready to have our senior segment. Stretch run coming up, show number 1. John will be back for 2 shows, but we'll be back with a stretch right after this.
Okay.
We're celebrating 45 years of serving you at Matthews Nissan, Clarksville's #1 import dealer.
We're saying thank you with $6,300 off a new Altima, $4,700 off a new Rogue.
New Versa, $10,655, $11,000 off a new Titan XD.
With 800 new and used in stock, you're sure to find the car you want at the price you want.
Auto credit challenged, we can help.
You're gonna love our prices. Matthews Nissan.
Stretch run, 3 minutes with our guest John Osborne here on show number 1. I hope you haven't minded all the reminiscing, but You have to do that here and there, especially depending on your guest. And John and I go so far back, we have to do it, don't we, John?
At least 15 or 20 years, yeah. At least.
Let's see what we're going to talk about on the next show. For sure, you have been a educator, a professor. You've been a bartender. You've worked for American Airlines.
Right.
You've been a farmer.
Yeah.
You've done a little of it all.
Done a few things. Worked in factories. Worked on construction, water lines. I've done a few things, yes.
You've done a few things,
Yes.
haven't you?
Yes.
You know, we mentioned your brother Quentin and him being a nice athlete out at Woodlawn, and he was.
Yeah.
And you were telling me you think maybe he had enough talent to go pro in baseball.
Baseball, yes.
Well, Gary was also a great athlete. I remember when Gary had the record, broke Skipper McKinnon's record. I think he had 19 tackles in a game.
Yes.
Isn't that right?
Yes, he did. Yes,
You know,
he did.
At that time, that was record. I don't know if it still is, even if they keep him any longer.
Okay.
You know, probably don't.
Okay, can I interrupt you here?
Sure.
Okay,
That's
because
what
we're
it's
talking
for.
about Quentin, and I'm here. Gary, of the three of us, was the best all around.
All
athlete.
around.
He could do anything. He was so much more coordinated.
He could play football, basketball, baseball. He was
Track.
excellent baseball.
Yeah,
Track.
He was the best all around.
Athlete.
Yes, of the three of us.
I
There's
couldn't
no
agree
doubt
more.
about it. No doubt about it. So
I agree.
yeah, I'm
Did you three guys ever get in any fights growing up?
no. On occasion. On occasion.
Was Quentin the main man?
Well, Quentin's one we left alone.
That's what I figured.
No, after a while, we kind of all figured out, you know, this is not a good move for any of us. But Quentin, was bigger.
Yeah, it's stronger.
So it worked out better if we just left it alone.
Enjoyed show one with you, man.
Okay, believe it. It's been a pleasure for me.
Hey, we're just going to sit here, and next week you can find out what we talk about on show number 2. For John Osborne, for our director, producer, Steve Sawyer, for yours truly, Greg Walker. Until next time, tell your friends, neighbors, and loved ones about the show, and have a very nice rest of the day, folks.